So just like we started out yesterday, we're going to write our linear equations first from a graph. So our first little method here that we're going to talk about and review, just like we started out yesterday, is from a graph. And we're going to start this out exactly the same way that we did yesterday. What's the name of our process for finding slope here? Anyone remember? Rise over run. Exactly. Which point do we want to start with? Do we want to start counting from this point on the left or this point on the right? The one on the left. All right? Are we going to rise up or are we going to rise down? We're going to rise up. 1, 2, 3 spaces up. We've got a rise of 3. How many spaces should I run over? 1, 2, 3, 4. Close. 4 spaces over to the right. Nothing's changed. Right? Same exact thing we talked about yesterday. Rise over run to find our slope. But now, we've got to find our B. And when we have a graph, it's pretty obvious where our B is. We just look for where the line crosses the y-axis. My y-axis is this vertical line cutting down the center of our graph. Where does my diagonal line intercept or cross this yellow y-axis line? Right here at this point. That point is at -3. Right? From the origin, it is 1, 2, 3 spaces down. So we know that B is equal to -3. We found our M using rise over run. We found our B by looking at the graph and analyzing where that line crosses my y-axis. We can now write the equation in the form y is equal to mx plus b. How do we remember this formula again, everybody? Yo mama's ex-boyfriend. That's right. This is our slope-intercept form. Where all we have to do, plug in the M and plug in the B. What am I going to plug in for M here? 3 over 4. Exactly. 3 over 4x. What's my B? -3. So kind of a two-step process, right? We got to find the M first by doing rise over run, just like we talked about yesterday. We got to find our B just by looking for that intersection point in the graph. Plug in the M, plug in the B. Keep your y and x as y and x, and we've got ourselves a linear equation in the form y equals mx plus b. Thank you. quick show of thumbs of how much we remember about this. Thumbs up if you're like, I remember this completely, it makes sense. Thumbs sideways if you're like, it kind of sounds familiar. I'm starting to see some things that I recognize. Okay, good. Couple thumbs sideways, that's all right. We're going to get a whole lot of practice today with this, which will be great. Let's go from a table now. That's how we, it was our second method yesterday. We'll keep it as our second method today. So method number 2. From a table. Come on. Thank you. Those of us that just came in, I would leave like half, like the top half of your page blank just to fill it in. So then where we're at with number 2, I would just start there. Don't glue that in yet. I'll show you after where that goes. I just wanted to get it to you. All right, so let's write ourselves a little table here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Boom, boom, boom. Oops. Don't copy that. I already messed it up. I put the X's and the Y's in the wrong spot. Yeah, my bad. X on the top, Y on the bottom, like always. Let's say our X values here are 0, 1, 2. And let's say my Y values are, I don't know, 4, 7, and 10. So just like yesterday, again, starting out the same, finding slope. Instead of rise over run, we're going to do the change in Y over the change in X. And to figure out what those two numbers are, we just do our little arrows from 0 to 1 and from 1 to 2. And on the bottom from 4 to 7 and 7 to 10. Let's do my change in X first. How do I get from 0 to 1? Plus 1. How do I get from 1 to 2? Plus 1. My denominator is going to be 1, which we love to see. On the bottom, change in Y. How do I get from 4 to 7?
Plus 3.
Yep, plus 3. And from 7 to 10? Plus 3 again. There's my numerator.
Would that be -3, right? 3 divided by 1?
So I see what you're thinking, but not quite. These are both positive, right? So our slope's still going to be positive. But what happens when we have something over 1? Do we need that 1? No. 3 over 1, that's just 3. We're halfway to our equation. We found the slope. Now in this case, we don't see the graph, right? So we can't tell where this line intercepts or crosses the y-axis, but we do know that my b value is the y value where x is equal to 0. So we look for an x value of 0 on our table. Do we see one anywhere here? Yeah, right here on the left. What's the y value where x is equal to 0?
4.
4. So we know that b is equal to 4. There's my second half of this equation. So my m is 3, my b is 4. I can now write the equation in the form y is equal to mx plus b, where I take out the m, I take out the b, and I plug those two numbers in. What did we find for m again? 3. What did we find for b? 4. Boom. Y is equal to 3x plus 4. Great question. Is there always going to be a 0 on our table? No, there is not always going to be a 0 on our table. But we can find a 0 on our table. If we look at this one, right, my x values, I don't see any 0 there. So would my 0 be to the left of the 3 or the right of the 1? The right of the 1. So we just add an extra little box here for 0, right? And then we just got to figure out what's the next y value in this kind of order, right? So how do we get from 9 to 12? Plus 3. So 12 plus 3 would give me what? 15. Boom. There's my b. Right? In this one, if we have 3, 6, 9, we're getting larger to the right. So my 0 is going to be to the left. From 3 to 6 is plus 3. And this is our worksheet today. Don't worry if you're like, what am I looking at right now? We're going to get this. Right? 3 to 6 is plus 3. So if we go backwards, we subtract 3. What's 3 minus 3? 0. On the bottom, from 4 to 8 is plus 4. If we go backwards, we subtract 4. 4 minus 4 gives me 0. Boom. 0 is going to be my b for that one. All right. Most of the time, though, there will be a 0 there, so we just have to look and find it. But all we got to do is follow our pattern to figure out what that b is going to be if we don't have a 0. All right? Great question. Okay. Hopefully the tables aren't too bad. Let's do an easy one. Let's write an equation from an m and a b. From an m and a b. Easily the easiest option that we have. Write the equation of the line that has a slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of 6. In the previous two options, we had to do a little bit of math to find out what my m is and what my b is. But here, luckily, it's just given to us. All we really have to know here is what letter represents slope and what letter represents the y-intercept. So again, what letter is my slope? M. And what letter is my y-intercept? B. So if we're writing in the form y equals mx plus b, we take out the m, we take out the b, and in this situation, what's my m going to be? Let's read it again. Yep, slope of 1/2. There's my m, and what's my b? 6. Y-intercept of 6. So who can help me out? What's my equation here going to be? Y is equal to what? Mx plus b, right? But let's plug in the m and the b. 1/2 x plus 6. Super simple. Probably should have started with this one. Oh well. We glued in the graph, and once it's glued in, it's glued in. Because our last one is going to be a little more work for us. Yeah.
After this one, I use the rest.
Sure, yeah. So our fourth way to write an equation. What?
No, like next, like the 4.
Oh. Thanks, I think. It's gonna be from 2 points. Now this one is definitely gonna involve the most amount of math, like actual like doing math, solving math. We played a round of math though with this though.
Oh yeah, we did.
Do you remember? Does anyone remember what the modified slope-intercept form that we learned is?
No.
It's not Yo Mama's ex-boyfriend. It was something like it. Boy Yo Mama's ex.
Oh yeah, boy, your mama's X.
Exactly. Boy Yo Mama's ex. That's right. So B equals Y minus MX.
Oh.
Okay? So we're going to have to use that here. If we're going to find the slope from 2 points, obviously we have to start with what we did yesterday, and that's our slope formula. So let's say, actually, I got to think of an example that'll work with this. If we've got 1 comma 2, 5 comma 10, so that'll be 8 over 4. Y B equals Y minus. No, I don't like that. Sorry, give me 1 sec. Okay, that'll work. So let's say we've got the 2 points. 1 comma 2 and 2 comma 7. So this is a 2-step process. The first step is to find M. If we have 2 points, we need to find M. We got to label them, plug them in, solve and simplify. Again, we just reviewed this yesterday, so that's why we're going through it kind of quick. The B is the important part today. What can I label this 1 as? X1, perfect. What about 2? Y1. What about this 2? X2 and my 7, Y2. All right? My slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that'll be 7 minus 2 over 2 minus 1. I'm going to take a moment there because I know I'm going super, super fast. I want you guys to catch up. What does 7 minus 2 give me on the top? 5. 2 minus 1 on the bottom? 1. How can we simplify 5 over 1? We just get 5. There's our first half here. We found our m. Now, our second step is to solve for b. Now, sometimes we'll be given a point like something like 0, 4, and we know that when our x is 0, the y value is our b. But here we don't have that luxury, so we've got to actually solve to find b. And we're going to use the formula b is equal to y minus m times x, also known as boy yo mama's x. Right? We just rearranged our original slope-intercept form to get b all by itself. We know that my m was equal to 5. And if we want to find an x and a y, where can we get an x value and a y value? At the very beginning, we were given 2 points. Either one of them will work. I'm going to use my first one because it looks easier. So what's the x value for my first point? 1. What's my y value? 2. Okay, I'm going to focus on the b. So we want to find what b is. That's the only letter that we don't know. But we do know these 3 letters, y, m, and x. So we can plug those in. b is equal to y, which was what again? 2, minus m, which was times x, which is 1. So take a moment, make sure you see how I plugged those in, where I got those numbers from. Like I said, this is where we have to do the most amount of math. What would 5 times 1 give me? 5. And 2 minus 5? Negative 3. And that's how we solve for b. b is equal to negative 3. So we found my m through the slope formula to be 5. We found my b through boy yo mama's x to be negative 3. All that's left to do now is plug both in. Y is equal to mx plus b. My m that we found was 5. And my b that we just found right now was negative 3. Yep. Now, I know we went through that kind of quick. It still felt super long, I understand. But once you see F04, you'll understand. Plus, a lot of this was from this term, so it should still be somewhat fresh in our brain. The exponents and the scientific notation, that's from like months and months ago. This we should still be fairly confident with. I'm gonna grab those in a second. Actually, do you mind grabbing those for me? Okay, yeah, go for it. Thank you.
Mr. Church.
Yeah, yep, go ahead.